Right. New technology here. We got the countdown and everything coming in. Kind of like the take one. So welcome guys. So I got Hichem and Noel here from HGC Technologies, another ServiceNow partner. I'm with Fusion 3 Consulting partner. We had some conversations the other day and decided to get on here and kind of, we always have those conversations. You're like, man, we should be recording this. This was great to talk about. So we wanted to do that and bring us all together here. I think we started to have some really interesting conversations about obviously the hot topic in any post, any conversation is blah 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 AI, blah 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 AI. As long as you keep mentioning AI, you're in the you're at the cutting edge, right? So or at least it seems that way today. But we got into the conversation about one of the big things that I liked was talking about the human side of the AI as well, right? Everyone's concerned about AI is going to take our jobs. It's going to eliminate people, the need for people to do certain things. And I think there's an aspect to it where there's still a very humanistic side to it that people can lean into. And rather than being scared of it, can actually capitalize on it. Right. And then I think getting into that a little bit, and then also talking about how partners like us and technology partners like us, how we can, what does AI mean for us, right? Does it eliminate some of the things that we do and bring to the table? And we have to adapt and do other things and change our strategy, right? And I think we're not even necessarily looking at it. Yeah, great. AI can help us code, can help us write text and posts and all of that. But it's really, hey, what else? What's going to change in our world, in our landscape that we're going to have to adapt to and have a strategy around? So those are the two cool things that I think we got into. So I'm going to kind of open it up here, and I don't know if Hichem or Noel, you want to jump in on either one of those, but let's kind of take off and run with this.
Do you want to go first, Hichem? Because I see Hichem's like
he's chomping at the bit.
I'm like, no, I just got this idea. I was, I think the key AI, existed for the past. I mean, since the computer started, how do we define AI, right?
Right.
The intelligence part, or maybe the mainstream access. And we see that it's starting to go up. But I was just looking at my coffee because, obviously the podcast is to have conversations around coffee, right?
Yes.
With the K, like the Kardashians, I guess.
Well, I gotta capitalize on someone's popularity.
You don't have to say it officially, but we know you're a Kardashian fan.
That's another show. We'll talk about that.
Don't edit that. But reality is, actually human made the coffee, right?
Mm-hmm.
So until a robot, you have machines that make coffee today, but until a barista is actually a robot at Starbucks,
right?
A human-like robot, then I think we should not be afraid, right? I've been replaced. So what we spoke about last time, it's the idea that when the car came around early last century, and if people don't know what a century means, it's 100 years. The new generation, they're going to go to ChatGPT and say, what is a century? When the car came about last century, if you own a few horses and you had carriages, you should be afraid, right? It took some years, but if you inherited horses and you did not readapt,
right,
maybe your fortune went away, right? So, right. And that's what happens is that today, AI or artificial intelligence or the accessibility of some of these products, I think it allows a different breed of entrepreneurs. Right? It allows a different breed of innovation. And then your question is the other, you're like a politician, you had like 10 questions in one. The other one...
keep you confused.
Yeah, the other one was how, as partners, this impact us. I think it can evolve where the challenge with implementations, for example, I was talking to Noel about this yesterday, is test cases, use cases, and testing, right?
Right.
So we're doing, smart test more smart, intelligent testing, intelligent QA, better test cases that can be automated. So yeah, that improves the way we work. That improves the way we deliver projects. Yeah. No, I'm not sure what you want
Yeah.
to.
No, I think the name of the game is you either change or you don't exist anymore, right? So like when you look at when you look at AI in the way we do it, to Hichem's point, there's a bunch of stuff you can do to deliver properly. So you could, improve your test cases generation, which is we know that writing test cases is a massive pain, right? Because you got to sit there and document step by step. That is something a machine can do. Even the QA process, like when you code something and you push it into the test environment before you even say is it good for the customer to test, you could have AI just kind of run through some use cases and spit something out and say, hey, I caught this, I caught that. So that can massively reduce the number of QA work there. And then even before QA, the delivery, right? Like the development, you just hit a point where you say coding, right? If you have a developer and they want to write a business rule or they want to write like a notification, because something we've caught in our practice is for some reason notifications has become a pain, right? Like just generating notifications, the trigger when it triggers, um, that can be something that AI can help us out with. So I think it's there's a lot of good things that AI can do, and I think it's a matter of time where partners have to start adapting those, and that's going to result in the cost of delivery, right? Before
Yeah.
you would say it took my QA person 40 hours a week. Now with AI, that's going to come down to 10. So what that means to the customer is a lower cost of delivery, right? Lower cost of
Well,
implementation. So I think it's going to,
business, yeah.
what was that, Hichem?
So allow me to in. Business wise, the cost will never go down. So cost will always go up. So that's the rule that we want.
Profitability goes up.
The speed to delivery will go up though.
Yes.
So if you do it the smart way. So and that can also start from requirements gathering, right?
Right.
Maybe you don't need to spend weeks to gather requirements, right? Maybe you can start with a proper set of requirements that, and we do it already today, but you can improve faster. Also correct English, faults or speaking like me. I'm a French speaker, so my English is not my first language.
Right.
So also corrected some of those grammar errors. So the idea here is that using technology, right, that is being accessed today, that's more prevalent. And what ServiceNow did, they have their own LLM, so things stay within your own LLM, secure within your enterprise.
Yes.
That's the big difference between
huge difference
externally ChatGPT or Google AI or any other kind of LLM.
Right.
So many of them. So, and also you pay when you use that. I think people forget that if I use it myself, I pay $20 a month, but if you use it in an organization, you pay in each transaction. But if you buy the ServiceNow, so even ServiceNow now needs to kind of readapt, right? Because if I'm summarizing all the cases, if I'm potentially, let's say your level one is gone, right? Because if I'm calling and now I have Kevin, the AI bot agent, that says, hey, hello, most likely will mispronounce my name. So hello, Hichem or Hichem or whatever. How can I help you today? Okay, are you calling about an existing incident? Yes. Are you calling to find the stat? Yes. What's going on? And then boom, boom, boom. So you're taking the notes, you're resolving the ticket, you're summarizing the ticket. So today ServiceNow is on per fulfiller, right? So what do you do? So you're taking away level one. So then so I think it's, as we evolve, it's the upscaling, so upskills, right?
Yes.
So now we need to upskill ourselves continuously. Even us as partners, we have to upskill ourselves. That's a conversation with Noel we have every day. Every day we, I think I speak to Noel more than my wife.
We usually do with our work partners.
Yeah. This is a public podcast.
Yeah, right. Are they going to be watching this? But no.
I think we said everything is allowed except the F word. So I think
Right. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
We can, and we can trim those out.
we
Um,
do that. So
no, but I think that, one of those points is that the upskilling also, right? So now if we looked at the need to upskill, AI can be applied to that too, right? So now your upskilling can even be quicker, right? So now you could potentially have AI helping with that. So I think one of these, the way I look at it is it's a force multiplier, right? It's an accelerator, much like, everything. If you look back across, even going back before the car, right? The first radio, right? The first wireless radio, right? Ah, it's a fad, right? Oh, great. The king broadcasted across it, whatever. Great. But it's not going to last. Then the TV came out and said, yeah, but it's too expensive. No one's going to do that. That's a fad, right? Then it was the internet, right? And if you look across the globe, right, you probably have more people with internet access than telephone access, right? And so you have these things, and it created whole industries as well as disrupted a whole bunch of industries, but that led to new industries. So nothing really disappeared. It kind of migrated. You know what I mean? So as we see these things with AI, it's that you're going to disappear, you're going to migrate, and you're going to grow into something else, right? Because it's going to enable you to.
Well, there's also,
if
a super radical way is, it's not unfathomable that you could have one or two people that can deliver an entire product suite using AI, right? They can code
Sure.
it, they can get the
Yeah.
requirements, they can test it, and they can deliver. So you might not even need a 5-person army or a 10-person army. You might just need 3 people. So, I mean, that's a
well,
more of a radical approach, but
that's why you have people, process. We used to call it
Yes.
product. Now we call
Right.
it platform. So the 3
platform.
Ps. So in the end, the big challenge in organization, and Kevin, we spoke about this, especially you guys are in the security. We are more into managing service now for our clients and implementing, IT operations, IT asset, and so on. But the idea is the big challenge is the organizational changes, the people in the end.
Mm,
We know that the same. I always get asked
right.
the question, how long it takes to implement X, and I
Yeah.
say, really, it takes 1 day, 1 week, 6 months, or 2 years. It really depends on the organization, and
Depends.
who make that harder are the people, right? So even
Yeah.
if you have all these whistles, bells and whistles, you have new technology that's coming in, and ServiceNow is not 2 products like it used to be 10 years ago. It's more than 30 product lines.
Right.
So, and the more you look at it, every day I get a headache. There's so much.
Right.
So it's actually the people, right? The people don't
Yes.
want to change a lot of times. So regardless, even if tomorrow we have robots, we have automation, we have whatever, we still have people. So at the
Yeah.
same time, there's, I would say, we are our worst enemies in a way, right? So this is where it's becoming interesting. Organizations that will embrace new technology
Hmm.
will be better off than the ones that stay behind in
Yeah.
their old ways. And we used to have bank branches. Now we have banks that are completely online. Did
Right.
the bank branch go away? No.
No.
But when
So
I
there.
look at companies, it's a sad thing, but I always look at companies and I say, your customers are dying customers, right?
Yeah.
Because we are getting older. I mean, I think we're old enough where we were in high school and we did not know what a mobile phone is, right?
Right. Correct. Yeah.
So
That didn't exist.
exactly. So we are that generation. The new generation, they don't know.
They
They
don't know. They don't know life without it.
For them, FaceTime is a regular thing. Video
Hmm.
with your friends. Sharing instantly, getting that instant gratification. They have no clue, right?
No.
Um, for us, it's different. FaceTime for us was watching Star Trek all the way to
Right.
our 20s, right?
Yeah.
And thinking that is that something that can happen someday. When we didn't think about it, like that's the future. Now we
Right.
are in the future. When you look at the old movies in the 80s and the 70s, they used to make more movies about the future. And they become all about Marvels and such. Now, hopefully, it can go back to that futuristic mindset, you know, Jules Verne type, right?
Right.
Thinking about what if. So what if we're going to have people human like replacing people manufacturing. We're going to have human-like, you say it or not, replacing certain type of workers that you find in Amsterdam downtown in the red district, right? So we're going to have new. Noel is laughing because the first client we signed when we opened HGC 6 years ago was ING Bank in Amsterdam in Holland.
Okay, sure.
And we had to go there and let's just say we have some stories that cannot get in this podcast.
That sounds like another podcast series unto itself.
Like, it's not Coffee Konnect. It's really Coffee Konnect Midnight Edition.
Right. Oh, we could do uncensored.
Late night edition. Forget midnight. It's late night.
No, red district edition. So, but joking aside, it's really the idea that we are lucky. We are lucky. We have access to technology.
Yes.
So when I tell clients, I go, your clients are dying. Your customers are dying today. They're getting old, and you need to start thinking about how are you refreshing. So if you're a bank and you don't have a good access to your mobile app, you don't have good customer service, guess what? Your new customers are not going to go to the branch, right?
Right now.
So that's what I mean by that, is that
Yeah.
things are changing. So today you can actually open a new company, right?
Mm-hmm.
With, let's say you build the technology, you buy ServiceNow, you buy Salesforce, you buy Workday, all these SaaS solutions, connect them together, and you can compete against 100-year-old company and destroy them because they have to replace their legacy systems. And that's what we face.
They're not as agile.
Yeah.
Oh, and the access, right? I mean, before, all of that stuff was really inaccessible, whether it was a cost factor or space factor that you needed, right? But you don't need that now. That you don't need an office tower. You don't need a data center of your own. You can come out and you can start in a 5x5 office, and away you go. And because everything is now internationally to be able to reach, right, with all of this technology we have, you can become that next disruptor, that next competitor to, like you said, to 100-year, 200-year-old company, and you can come out of nowhere, right? And I think that's a piece for the ServiceNow side too, is that they have to adapt because they could be overtaken by some company like that, right? Because now you have all this acceleration.
And I think we all love ServiceNow as a platform, right?
Right, absolutely. Yeah.
Look, when I first discovered ServiceNow, when it started to take off in 2012, I looked at it and said, "This is ugly. It's a piece of shit." We can say that, right?
Yeah, because it's and they probably admit that too back in the early days, right?
They're not ready to take over from CA Unicenter, from HPSM, and the likes at the time in the big enterprises. And then fast forward 2 years down the road, 2014, 15, I looked at it again as we were selecting it for a big university in Montreal, and I was like, wow, I was blown away. So there, I'm like, this is the future. Mm-hmm. But that future, we had this conversation with Noel, I believe, on Monday or Tuesday, and we were talking about the addition of, and you can jump and talk about the retail space, right? The retail solutions. And so how do you create now more than 30 product lines? And we know that in order to have a product line, you have a whole set of people, but still to keep the core business, right?
Right.
Then what if we move into a world now where it's no longer having everything on one platform, but rather having just a connectivity platform, and then because I had a call about last month with a potential customer in the healthcare industry, right? And we were talking about value added with ServiceNow. And so I asked him, I said, what do you guys use? And he goes, we use Salesforce, Monday.com, blah, 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 right? All these solutions. And they integrate through Zapier and other technologies. And they go, well, you don't need ServiceNow. Even though we sell ServiceNow.
Right. Realistically, they don't.
You don't. Just focus on creating additional value between Monday.com and Salesforce and your UKG, and you should be fine, right? You don't need to add another complex product in the mix. So I think this is where the next step is. And us as partners, even though we are, we are both elite partners, we do ServiceNow, we have to be cognizant with what's best for the customer.
Correct.
And to me, ServiceNow is the conductor of the symphony. So where we
Yes.
have all these instruments playing
I like that.
their own, right? So I like the guitar. Noel likes, what do you like, Noel? The violin, the piano? What do you like?
Piano.
The piano.
That's
Noel
my
is a
thing.
big
Yeah.
piano. He's still trying to play, but it's
I'm
not
still
working for
learning.
him.
I'm not.
Kevin,
I
how about
just
you? What do
gave
you
up.
like? You seem like a hard rock
Guitar.
Yeah.
Guitar. I was
So-
just gonna say guitar.
So you can listen to who's a good guitarist, like Clash.
Yeah, Clash, Stevie Ray Vaughan.
So
Yeah.
amazing, right?
Right.
But then you take all these instruments, all these products together, and you put ServiceNow as the conductor, right,
Right.
of the symphony.
Yeah.
And then you have all these instruments playing together. And then you have a beautiful symphony, right?
Right.
And that's where ServiceNow is. It's really bringing together, not necessarily replace all the time, but bringing
right.
together. So what do you need in order once you bring all this together? You need you, Kevin, right?
Right.
You need security, you need governance, that's where I think your company comes in place today, as we talked, where you need to be able to have the right governance, right? It's
Right.
not just about having ServiceNow and other platforms or the other platforms. How do you manage that governance today?
Yeah.
It's not a lot. So
it's definitely, there's a lot. And the governance side is really, you're trying to catch up, right, with AI, because there's so much around that. Not only how to use AI in helping your governance program, but also how do you govern around AI, right, in the use of AI. But you look at the conductor metaphor you made. I really like that, because that was the original goal of ServiceNow. Really was it's a platform, right? We can connect, we can do this. Okay, we needed to have an application to sell it, so we put ITSM on it, and away we go. Now they have other applications on there as well, but it can be that conductor and leverage everything around it. And now, if you take everything around it and connect it in with ServiceNow's information, your own internal LLM just gets bigger and bigger, right?
Yes.
So now I can see how efficiencies can be gained across the board, from your Workday workflows to your Salesforce workflows to everything, because it's all going to be connected and it's all going to be looking at everyone's interactions. And that's where, up until now, and before these kind of large language models were even kind of a thought, is just digesting all of that was a problem, right? And then never mind acting on it, but just being able to digest all that. So I think that's where it's going to evolve, is that it's potentially going to be that neurocenter conductor in the middle, right? Doing what it does best, but also taking in everything around it and learning from it.
But
right?
Even if you have this technology today, right?
Yeah.
Even if you have this technology and you enable it and you connect, you're still not resolving the problem. You'll be surprised. We work with big enterprises, right?
Right.
Without naming them here, with different locations, different departments. And you'll be surprised sometimes that we're actually, as the ServiceNow partner, because we touch IT, we touch HR, finance, procurement, security, that actually colleagues within the same company don't even know each other.
No, right. Or what they do. Right.
You have the CISO making decision on his own. You have the CIO is way too high, and so it's interesting where even if you have this technology in, you still have to resolve the human factor, and especially now it's more complex. At least before, you have to go to the office, right, and maybe potentially meet people in the cafeteria. Right. Now it's even worse. People on their own at home working. So challenge, how do you meet, right? How do you connect? We are human beings. It's all about connections, right?
Right.
It's the idea is that, yes, technology is fine. Technology is good. It helps. At the same time, the more connected we are,
Yes.
the less connected we become.
Correct. You're right. I totally agree with that.
We are addicted to the not even 5 seconds videos, 5 seconds things. And in
Right.
companies it's the same
Yeah.
attention. How so? Yes, AI
And
is great, but how do we resolve the human factor of it? Right?
yeah, right. And and you mentioned that because, going back to your statement of your customers are aging out, right? I won't say
Yes.
dying, right?
Not
Because
all customers.
I'm aging out too, right? So,
Amazing, but I mean, what you look
but
at,
but
you
you
know,
look at who's coming
you look
in,
at a 100 years old bank, right?
right?
Customers are aging out.
Yes,
You look at
right.
any type of business today that's providing kind of a local service, their customers are aging out. You look at, brick and mortar, right?
Yep.
Their customers are aging out because they're buying on Amazon. And
Right.
even some people are moving away from Amazon to more niche product lines, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I mean. It's
Yeah.
I think we
And
still have another 20 years to go, but it's
right. So you have to adapt to your customer, but also companies have to adapt to that workforce coming
yeah,
in as well, right? And you have to do things very differently inside there. And it's a huge organizational change management challenge because you potentially for a while you're going to have that kind of cross generational cross centurion model, right? But eventually you have to do that. I mean, they're just not. They're not. They don't. The speed at which some people process data these days is crazy because they just take in so much faster, right? Because there's so much more coming at them than when I was, first learning about technology. So you have to meet them there, right? And then you have to meet your customer there. I mean, you look at, I know people that, in and I'll say younger, that are not interested in buying a car because why? I grew up with Uber. I don't need a car, right? And so now you have that kind of shift as well. That's another industry that kind of has to really pay attention to. If that takes off, you're not going to have dealerships. You're not going to have these types of things. So I think that's the big piece about where all this technology is great, right? I think that when it's applied properly, it can help accelerate and kind of close that gap to that next influx of technologists, of employees, of customers, right? Because they're more tech savvy, they're more savvy, they're more they want it faster, they want it smoother, they don't want to, how come I have to click 5 times, why can't I just click once, those types of things, right? And that you apply AI against processes in your own technology in your own company, and you start looking inside some of those things and eliminating some of those things, I think that can help close that gap faster, right? And keep you relevant, right? Which is really what it's all about. It's all about staying relevant, right?
well, that's why Coca-Cola still advertises after more than 100 years. That's why
Right.
companies still advertise because, if you're born today, you don't know about it. That's why movie makers make remakes. Who
Right.
goes back 20 years ago to watch a movie? For us, it's a classic, right? But
Right.
maybe some people today, the new generation, they haven't even heard of The Godfather, right?
Great.
So it's you have
Are
to.
are you saying you want to be the Godfather? Is that what this is coming to?
I'm not the Godfather. We actually have a Godfather in the company, but yeah, that role is already taken.
Okay.
But it's no, it's the idea is how do you reinvent yourself?
Yes.
Then reinvent yourself fast and smart, right? The new
Right.
smart age. So when you look at what we do, it's interesting how it has evolved in the past 10 years, right? And
Yes.
now it's evolving month over month.
Right.
It's scary even for us to
Yeah.
be able to keep up, right?
I think that
which
the thing
means
that I always ask myself is, AI I think is going to be a lot more relevant in, let's say, outside of enterprises, right? Like you're talking about consumer services and stuff like that. When you look at back
Yeah.
end areas such as like GRC, IT, SecOps, and all those areas, I still think there is there's an adoption concern there. Like, when you look at GRC, people, I think that
Sure.
the compliance people are concerned about, well, what are the controls we need for AI? Well, what do we need to put in place? How are we going to monitor those? How do we make sure that AI is actually doing what it needs to do? Because it's not a human anymore. It's just a machine that's
Right.
just looking at a bunch of patterns and it's going to spew out what it thinks it's going to spew out. But how do you monitor that and how do you govern that? And I think if you kind of took that into the real world, you have, I think at the government level, you have these committees that are being formed to
Hmm.
regulate how AI is going to be used in different industries. And I think that's going to come into the companies. And I think that is a big concern for companies. Banking,
Yeah.
HR is one of them. We have a client right now and they're they want to know what the features are of AI. They want to see what it can do, but they're also a little apprehensive because they're like, what if AI accidentally gives out information that we don't want it to give out? How are we going to mitigate
Right.
that? How are we going to, because it can just snowball into like a massive data leak, right? So I think
Yes.
that's a concern. A lot
Yeah.
of companies, but you still have to be relevant. You still have to see it is a technological trend, right? I think
Right.
Lisa Hu of AMD was saying that it's the best innovation since 50 years, right? So clearly, industries have to adapt it, but I think they're also trying to figure out like how do we make sure that it does not put us on a risky path, right? So I think
Yeah.
that's the concern there I see.
Yeah, I think that's a great observation, and it's true. I think it's also going to accelerate. You'd be surprised again going back to some large organizations and what their compliance programs actually look like, right, or don't look like in a lot of cases. But I think this is going to force the issue on a lot of things because this is no longer do I necessarily need to be a hacker to have a data breach. If I'm just an employee and I upload something to a chat bot to try and comb through it or something like that. Now my data is out there in the world and someone else can just grab it and use it against me. Right. So
Yeah.
you have to have a lot of control around that and a lot of, thought that goes into that and how it's going to be used. And then you mentioned the government side, right? Well, the government might come in and say, well, you can't use AI in situations of trying to process health records in, cancer centers, right? Or something. They might, come down with some kind of regulation like that, where because of the information, it might come down like that. So you definitely have to be aware. You can't necessarily be scared of it, but I agree. There's definitely a
I
lot of
think that's
people that
coming.
are, hey, this is great, but let's pump the
Yeah.
brakes a little bit, right?
I think that's
Go
coming. I
ahead. Sorry.
think like, no, like I was saying, just like, how there's ISO regulations and then there's like all these
Yeah.
PCI. I think that's coming. That's just a matter of time, right? Like it's going to come
Yeah.
down and
Right.
it's going to say, if you're using AI in your company and if you're a financial institution, then these are the controls you need to have in place. And that's going
Yeah.
to I think it's a good opportunity. I think it's going to create a whole
Sure.
opportunity for consultants, who are going to be
Right.
specialists in that area. If you're in
Hmm.
manufacturing, you're using AI, you have these standards. If you're in healthcare, you have these standards, right? So I think that's going to come eventually. It's just a matter of time because when you look at how prevalent AI is going to become, when we start using AI outside of work, it's going to come inside of work. It's just a matter of
Yeah.
time. Like you talked about the new generation, right? They're so used to
Yeah.
like talking to Chat GPT. They come into the work environment, they're going to want the same, they're going to expect the same sort of medium. And if they don't have that, they'll be like, oh, this is kind of boring. Or they're going to think of
Right.
ways of how can I use AI to do my work faster,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
I think it's just a matter of time that's going to roll out. I'm keeping an eye on it. Like I try to follow the trends and see what regulations are coming out, just so we're aware. And also, obviously, with our clients, we have clients in banking sectors, we have clients in healthcare, we have
Mhm.
clients in telecommunications, and they, like I said, they're wanting to know all the features, but again, they also wanted to know if we are aware of what's happening in the industry as a whole, right?
Right.
So
Yeah. Right. Right. Like what's the trend? What are people adapting? What are people doing? What do
yeah,
we see potentially roadblocks in the future? And I think that kind of speaks to the human side again, right? Where there is a human component to this AI, not just from hey one we have to have enough data that was produced by humans that the AI can consume, but also from the human side of hey there's a human side of potential fear, potential education, all of this that goes along with this AI concept that we need to make sure that we're paying attention to and being empathetic towards what all that means to a lot of people in business and in personal life, right? There are legitimate concerns, right? And to be able to, and it goes back to the human connection, right? That kind of conversation and that kind of comfort doesn't come from, it probably wouldn't even come from a podcast like this or a Zoom meeting, right? It's going to come from an in-person meeting, and they talk about, like, let's go, let's bring out your concerns, let's talk about those, and I think that's going to be a special skill set that people are going to need to have, is to kind of talk to those, to that aspect, right? Because we're here, we're going to be here, right, until we completely blow up the planet. We're going to be here, and humans are going to be involved, and we need to be aware of that. And how do we both bring humans along and accelerate humans? I mean, look at how much we've accelerated already. I mean, we've accelerated with the car, with TV, with the internet, with every, the internet was essentially equated to the Industrial Revolution, right? Because it changed how business was done. And doing that and bringing all of that along and making sure that we don't leave the humans behind, and we take that into consideration on both sides. What can the humans now do and accelerate with, but also how is this affecting the humans and the human psyche as well, right? And making sure we're paying attention to that.
So let me ask a question for you guys. Like, you guys personally, are you worried, excited, concerned, or somewhat, where are you on the spectrum with AI?
I'll go first on that one. I'm excited.
Go for it. Okay.
I'm excited. I think, I don't think I'm concerned. I'm excited to see where it goes. I think that I'm concerned that people are going to, or that we potentially as a society may try and take it too fast too soon. And it could disrupt some things. But I'm excited to see where it goes, and how we can leverage it, and how, I mean, I'm already starting to leverage it somewhat, in just, content creation or posts and things like that. Just trying to get your feet wet with it, right? But just like when the internet came out, right? I mean, I was there when the internet became public, right? And we had the dial up and everything. I was excited about that. That was huge, right? It opened you up to so many things, and it opened up to a whole different companies that could start. E-commerce became a thing. It was like, I could buy something from California now that I couldn't before. Yeah, maybe if I had a catalog, right? But now I can get on their website and it'll be shipped to me tomorrow. So, yeah, I'm excited about it. I think there's, probably with everything, every kind of undertone is kind of a little bit of not necessarily fear, but trepidation of just like, okay, let's figure out how all this is. But the fear would come from if you're not if you're not educated, right? I think that's where a lot of the fear comes in, is what is this really going to mean? And unfortunately, the only way that AI has been depicted, in any kind of public consumption, has been some kind of dystopian future, right? Where, it's all, so yes. So that's embedded in people's heads. And it's like, no, we're going to, all of a sudden it's going to be Skynet and we're going to be terminated. Right. So
remember a movie called iRobot with Will Smith? Do you guys remember that?
Yes. I watch it actually often. I like that movie.
Well, I think.
Hichem, what do you think of that?
What do you think?
Well, I think I'm a futuristic person, so it's
yeah.
I've been thinking about the future and what it entails, because I have the ability and the mindset to be in it, right? Unfortunately, a lot of people are going to be left behind. I mean, once we start seeing, like I said, a human like iRobots, that like in the movie, being your valet or being your barista or being your welcome agent when you check in the hotel or at the airport, right? We are still, like, for me, I go to the airport to check in. There's the machine, there's the lady at the counter.
Mm-hmm.
I go to the counter, right? I just don't like the machine. It's the same thing. I go to Target. I go to the person and I actually stay in line to do that instead of going to because I just like that, right? But the new generation, they go to the machine and do self-checkout. So the idea, I think, obviously AI, automation, new solutions, new products are being built by humans, right?
Right.
And the concept of the movie iRobot was about the safeguards, right? The safeguards
yes.
that you put in place.
Yeah.
But as Noel was, saying before, what if those safeguards are broken for some reason, right?
Right.
Because you build a smarter machine that can actually break the safeguards. Is that going to happen in the next 5 years? Maybe no. But Is it going to happen in the next 20, 50 years? Yes. So I'm not afraid for us. I think we are that dying customer. So at some point we'll be gone, right? Um, unfortunately,
Who
You're a
knows?
futurist
They
and a
might figure
realist.
out a way. Yeah, they might figure out a way for us to be reborn in an AI body or something.
take your brain and put it into someone else's and live on.
Nobody
Yeah, if
wants
it's
my
worth
brain.
it.
Your body,
No,
right?
neither mind.
There's a movie about that as well with Ryan Reynolds, right? Where he took his
Yes.
like with Kevin Costner. I don't remember the title, but it's basically he died and they took his mind
Oh
and put
yeah,
it
I remember
into
which one you're talking
yeah.
about. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the cloning and all. There's so much. I mean,
Right.
you know what the problem is today is that even we're talking now because we're of a certain age, we're that dying customer, I guess. But a lot of the new generation they don't even have the energy or the stamina to watch an hour movie because they're addicted to the 5 second mindset, right? You know, TikTok,
It's true,
watching people
actually.
dance.
It's true.
You
I've
know,
seen I've seen people go to the theaters and still on their phone while they're at the theater. Like,
or
Right. Right.
you walk in and you see people on their phone and they're having you see 5 6 young people having dinner and all on their phone and I'm like seriously you can just eat at home. So I think
Right.
I'm not afraid for us. We still enjoy life, we still enjoy movies, we still enjoy popcorn, we still enjoy
Right.
everyone knows I love ice cream, so we still enjoy ice cream, we still enjoy the nice things, you know. If you eat ice cream and you're on your phone you're not enjoying it. So
Right.
the idea is I'm afraid for the new generation. That's not afraid, but I'm worried about them because
Hmm.
I remember when I was younger, we used to do mathematics, right? How much is 4 plus 4, right? Now you ask someone, how much is 4 by 4? They open calculator on the phone. Soon it's going to be, hey, ChatGPT, whatever, how much is 4 plus 4, right?
Hmm.
yeah,
So
it's
I
gonna
think
change the
that
reality. Yeah.
that's but then at the same time, it opens new venues, right? A lot of people are going to be left behind. So are we
Yeah.
going to see a revolution because people cannot work anymore and feed their families of
Yeah.
the mundane jobs that go away, the manufacturing job, the valet that takes your car, the person that greets you where you go, the you know the kitchen chef that makes the food, right?
Right.
I'm working on a new book, and I'm working on a new book, and it's going to be released hopefully soon, and it's interesting. It's a new concept I'm coming up with, um, and I'm calling it "What if Charles Baudelaire is alive? Was alive?" Right?
Hmm.
You know who Charles Baudelaire is, Kevin.
Educate
I,
everybody.
I'm not gonna
Charles,
pretend
you
I do.
know
I have no
who
idea who that person
Yeah.
is. No.
you guys are not educated. Um, you're like Americans. You have to study the rest of the world. Um, so Charles
We
Baudelaire,
just saved the world.
no,
Go
Charles
ahead.
Baudelaire is one of the most famous French poet that ever existed, right? So Les
Okay.
Fleurs du Mal, and ainsi de suite. So who's a famous author in the US, like a poet in the US? Who's comes to mind? Kevin is like, I don't care. I only deal with machines and robots.
I only deal with machines.
Hold on, let me ask
Poetry.
ChatGPT.
Yeah,
Right.
but the idea is that when I was a kid, when I was younger, I wanted to
Yeah.
be an author. Right, that was my
Yeah.
goal.
Okay.
My goal. Growing up, I was growing up in North Africa, uh, in a small village like Noel. People don't know, but Noel actually was born on Christmas Day, and Noel in French means Christmas, and he was born in a town called Nazareth. And if people don't know what Nazareth is where Jesus Christ was born.
Yeah.
In
Yeah. That's why I almost spit my coffee out.
the Middle East. So, but that's a problem. People don't know facts anymore. They don't know.
Yeah. Right.
Growing up, we were like, "Hey, it's like you're the king if you know when X person was born or when
Right.
they died or when this thing happened." Right now,
Right.
people don't. They just search for it. I mean, it's good
Yeah.
and bad. It's
Right. Sure.
so I'm working on this book called "What If Charles Baudelaire Maybe I need to change the title because it seems like people don't know who Charles Baudelaire is. So, what is Charles Baudelaire?
Might sell well in Montreal though, so don't change it necessarily.
I don't
I guess
even
it depends on
think.
the demographic that you're catering to.
I guess it depends. I need to hit up the 70 years old and older. But growing up, I wanted to be a screenwriter, right?
Okay.
Like Sylvester Stallone, right? Because Sylvester Stallone writes his own movies. So
Okay.
he was my idol growing up, right?
Uh-huh.
Watching movies. So I wanted to be a screenwriter, write movies. So I started writing, you know, books and stories and to turn them into movies, right? That was my whole idea. Go to Hollywood, make movies, right? About future. I was into science fiction and so on. And then, as I remember when I moved to Montreal and we had the test to write a poem. So I wrote a poem and I started writing poetry. So I wrote poetry for years, right? I even published my first book, poetry book, years ago in France. I think it sold like 10 copies. And lately I've, been working so much, not, into poetry, whatever, but I looked at some stuff and I said, let me try something. So I took some of the stuff I wrote and I put them into ChatGPT and I said, rework it, right? They're actually better than me. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Now, the book I'm working on is each page is 2 pages. One is the stuff that I wrote, same one, reworked by AI, and then let people decide.
I like that. I love that concept.
Right?
Yeah.
So
I love that concept.
The only thing is I have half of it written in English as I learned English, and I have the other half in French. So the French ones, I'm going to use AI as well to translate from French to English to AI. So is it an AI translation? It's actually freaking crazy. And it's insane. It's insane what the possibilities are. And I think I want to publish it soon. And it's crazy. It gives you even a rating on your phrases, right? So, for example, if you guys want to be entertained, right?
Okay.
Like I did not expect this to turn into a poetry event. So
that's all right. But if people are still with us at this point, this is great.
Yeah. So I just said something I wrote a long time ago about time, right? I don't remember which year I wrote it. I said, time, present and future. That's the poem. And I said, time passes us by, leaving us with joyful, wondrous memories. As we turn around to say our goodbyes, I cannot stop to rekindle. That's what I wrote, right? Check ChatGPT interpretation. Where is it?
You need to use ChatGPT to search your phone.
Now you're waiting to see.
Everyone's sitting on the edge of their seat now. You got them.
Yeah, somebody put some put the Price is Right music or something.
Check. As time's relentless march goes on, we're left with memories sweet and fond. In moments past, we turn, bid farewell, yet in our hearts these memories dwell. Wow, that's crazy.
That is crazy.
Can time pause in its endless flight to savor moments in stillness bright? Both joy and sorrow will embrace together in time's unyielding grace. Wow, it's crazy. It's actually better than mine. Wow. So this is the future of AI. There you go. Can you write?
I was going to go back to your wanting to make movies, right? You could make movies now with AI, and
you can.
People would put your prompts in there and start making them, and
it's interesting. So to me, this is the future of. Is it the death of creativity? Maybe, because some people will become lazy and say,
interesting.
Write me a poem about the sky. But if 10 people are asking the same thing, the output is the same. Right. So is it the death of humans because machines are going to take over? Maybe no. Right? So that's the question. Are machines going to take over? I think no. I think it might be the death of the humans because it's the death of creativity.
Interesting.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Just thinking about it, right?
Yeah,
I think there's definitely going to be a negative aspect of AI. I think that's yet to be seen. I mean, everything that we're hearing is more like people either opinion or postulating what's going to happen. But I think that's yet to be seen where the negative aspects of it's going to occur, and it's going to come. With the
yeah.
good, you have to take the bad, so it's going to come.
Yeah, and I think if you look at social media, right? Social media is an incredible platform to be able to join groups of people together that would never be able to join together before.
Sure,
right?
like us today.
Right, like us right
Yeah,
now, right?
exactly.
And so I think there's a huge aspect of that. But now you also have very serious psychological diagnoses of depression, of things, of just related to the constant barrage, the constant comparison.
You always had that. You always had people.
You did, but I think it accelerated, right? Because now instead of comparing myself to 50 people in my classroom, I'm comparing myself to the world, right?
Oh, well, yeah.
So I think you're right, Noel. I think there is going to be some kind of, I think there always is, right? I mean, look at the car, right? The car was huge, it was a great thing, but there's pollution. That's a negative aspect, right? And we didn't know how bad that was going to be because back when the car first and in the 70s, right? Well, I can talk about that, but not everyone can. But you had these huge cars with these huge engines. It was all about this big horsepower, big engines, big gas, go 2 miles to the gallon, right? We weren't thinking about the environment back then. We were just thinking about building bigger and faster cars. So I think there's definitely going to be that aspect, and it's just going to be a way of, okay, what are those offshoots? What are those things that we have to pay attention to and try and get ahead of, right? So that we don't get behind the eight ball.
It's the yin and yang. You always have the good.
Yeah, great way to put it.
I would say, I was having a conversation 2 days ago. We were talking about the new show on Netflix, like the Griselda Blanco or something, the drugs, right? And we were talking about
Narcos, the new Narcos.
Narcos, yeah.
And reality is with technology today, everyone knows who are the cartel, who are the people who are,
right.
Law enforcement know, but they have no interest in killing that. Without the bad behavior, you don't have good behavior. If tomorrow wars stop, you don't have the big machine. If tomorrow criminality stops, you don't have law enforcement. So you do actually need war on drugs. You do actually need war on something. So reality is, as long as people are going to create and not just rely.
Yes.
For us, our generation, I think we're fine. We're going to continue to create.
Yeah.
The new generation that did not learn otherwise, right? Because they're learning now to be lazy. Everything is fast. Everything is on my fingertips, right? I don't want to go do a regular job because I can go TikTok or I can go on OnlyFans and make more than if I go do the regular job, right? But then if you're a young person and you work harder than anyone else and you commit, you're going to be successful automatically.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You're going to stand out that much quicker.
In that mindset. So yes, everything compounds, right? Everything compounds. But it's all related, right? We have to go back to certain values, without going into details, where if families are broken today, if kids don't have the right heroes that they look up to, right? Then how do you move forward, right? You do need motivation. What was the US motivation in the past 50 years? Not anymore. That's, what was it? Back in the 60s, 70s, it was to beat the East, to beat Russia, the Cold War. You need that enemy. You cannot play chess on your own, right? You don't start to play chess, you turn around and play yourself, right? You can do it if you're Noel and want to beat yourself. He tries. It doesn't go anywhere. But you cannot, right? You need an opponent, right? So the opponent allows you to be better. So yes, we do need, it's the yin and yang. And it's that, how do you find motivation within yourself? So instead of, for example, you have two ways of looking at things. You can go on social media, look at the people that are either faking it or living it. It doesn't matter, right? Or
Right.
vacation,
Right.
traveling, whatever. You can have either FOMO, fear of missing out and depressed, or you can say, you know what, I can do it too. And that's
Right.
the American mentality. What's the American dream? The American dream is not a house and a car, whatever. Every dream is different. The American dream is the movies we grow up with that says, I can do it, right?
Mhm.
I'm Arnold, I'm Sylvester Stallone, I'm Jean-Claude Van Damme. I'm going to kill everyone and I'm going to be alive. That's why I hate movies when the hero dies at the end.
Right. Right.
I
Right.
started doing that in the last 10 years.
Yeah. Right.
I'm out. You cannot kill Sylvester Stallone. What's wrong with you? Doesn't die, man. So
You got to have 4, 5, 6, 7. You know, you got to have a bunch
10, 11, just go. Just
waiting for Rocky 14 to come out. You know, come on.
so that's the idea, is that you need something to look up for. So
Yeah.
either you stay back and say, I have FOMO, I'm depressed, I'm suicidal, I'm whatever. And that's okay. I mean, there's some people that, really, for me, I grew up with nothing, right? So I was born in North Africa, and that's a blessing, actually. They always say, what's the blessing of being an immigrant? And I think it's a blessing because you actually don't even have a passport and a visa to leave your country. So the only thing you can do is dream, right, Noel? And Noel has many stories about war and being in war zones and escaping to get to Canada. And, we can talk for weeks.
Yeah.
But the idea is you need to dream. Dreaming is free. So instead of saying, I'm depressed, then living the life, take a step back and say, what if I work harder? And now with AI, one of the positives is that you don't need to build data centers. You don't need to have all this money. You can get a free instance. You get a free instance of tomorrow. Get a free instance of ServiceNow. You have access to the entire platform, and just study. All the material is free. All the training is free. Spend your night, spend your weekend, study day and night, and then get certified, get the experience. You know what? You don't need the experience. Build your own app.
Right.
Build your own app. That's your experience. You see something that doesn't work, build your own app, and then call a partner like us and say, I studied on myself. I got certified. I built my app. Do you hire me? No? Okay, I built my own company.
Yeah.
I'm going to compete against you, right? That's the spirit. That's the American spirit. And that's what's been lost today. And if we lose this, if we lose creativity, we're dead.
Yeah, that's a really, and that's probably going to be the note that we're going to kind of sail out on here. But I think that's actually a really good point from, I think, the aspect of AI, right? And you mentioned like ServiceNow supplies so much, like just the fact that you can get a PDI, right? There's so few technology companies that you can go out there, create a login, and get a full functioning instance of the software. Right?
No one does it.
No cloud platform does that. Yeah.
No.
And it's developer.servicenow.com. Just an email and you get a free instance.
It's unbelievable. So now you can just accelerate yourself. And now if you take that, you take the trainings, you take all the doc site that's available to you, and then even also all the offshoot sites, right? Like there's a lot of people out there, that have their own, websites that support, and post up ServiceNow code and things like that. And just getting all those concepts down and everything. And then to your point, you build an app on your PDI and you say, okay, hey, I've done this, right? Let's take it. Let's go out and find some people. And if not, well, I'm going to start my own consulting firm. And guess what? I can do that. I can go and sign up for my LLC, and I can start my own thing. We started Fusion 3 with 3 people with laptops, right? So it's like, you don't need a ton of work.
No, and maybe you cannot access into big companies, but you know what? There are a lot of smaller companies that are looking for, and maybe it's not ServiceNow. Maybe it's one of the no-code solutions on the mobile, like Flutterflow or Bubble.io. The technology there exists. If you have access to a laptop and you have time, that the idea that we're busy, we don't have time is actually wrong. I always tell people you don't plan right. So we actually have time. You have time to spend at night. You have time. Don't go out. Stay home. Program. So you have time to study, and you have time to practice, and you have time to build your own portfolio, right?
Yeah.
You don't need anyone. Get an idea, build it up, and show it. I'm sure if someone says, what's challenging, go to ChatGPT and type what's challenging around GRC and security in companies. Boom, you have a few nodes. Give me the data model. Give me this. Go to the site. Build it up. Present it to you. And then you go, oh, you know what? You're hired.
Right.
Yeah, I hate to cut this short, but I got to hop off onto another call.
No, I was just going to say, I think that
this
was
fun.
the note.
This was fun.
It was great.
We could do this for hours.
I appreciate the time.
You know what? We should do this again when I publish that poetry book.
Yes.
By me and revisited by ChatGPT. I think it's going to be a winner. So
let's do that.
And then we share some passages and talk about time, the passing of time. That's
I like it. I like that. I like that. We'll step into that for sure.
You know, you can name this podcast "Poetry in Motion." There you go.
Oh, there we go. I might have the title for the podcast right there.
Or just have ChatGPT what you want it to call. They'll tell you the best title for it.
Right.
No, at some point you gotta, yeah. At
some point you gotta use your own brain. All right, thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, Nolinho. Thanks, Kevin. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, Kevin. It was a pleasure for sure.
Thank you for your time and inviting us today. I did not see you guys drink coffee, so a bit disappointed about that. But next time,
I had my espresso already with a quick shot.
Well, merci beaucoup. Thanks a lot, and
thank you guys.
Soon.
Yes, for sure. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Ciao.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see some more content, go ahead and click on the logo over here and go subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got some other content out there for you, some other playlists for you to check out, and appreciate it. Go take a look.